Greetings and welcome to our next installment of the Jataka Tales, where we do a group reading, if you will, of one of the Jataka Tales. And you are invited to read along as I'm reading the story, as I'm narrating the story, then you would be reading along with me. You would choose the character that you will see presented at the beginning of the tale, and you would choose that character to read for, or you can read the same parts that I'm reading as the narrator. So let us dive right into our story for today. And our story for today is the Tinduka Tree, as you can see right there. And I'm going to pull it up for us so that we can read along really easily with the story. The Tinduka Tree, which is also known as the Tinduka Jataka. That's our story for today. So we do have a few characters in this story. We have the Buddha, we have the scout, the leader, the monkeys, someone is a character also, one monkey, and Seneca. These are all of our characters. So you will see these names again woven throughout the story. They will pop up in red, and then you can feel free to just read those lines aloud. Or as I said, you can read the same lines along with me. You can read that aloud as well. And this is not only obviously an an opportunity to practice verbalizing, practice reading aloud, which is a lovely exercise for adults as well as for young people, but also it's meditative. So you can also see it as a meditation practice, as a Jataka meditative practice, to just allow yourself to be in the moment, just in this present moment in the story, with all your other worries, cares, thoughts, ideas occupying space outside of this moment. So we're just really focusing in on this moment, focusing in on a character of your choice or the narrator, if you so choose. And let's explore what this story has in store for us today. So here we go. Let's first, as always, just sit comfortably, whether you're sitting up or lying down, whatever your position is, just allow yourself to get comfortable. Let's take a deep cleansing breath before we begin the story, breathing in gently and then releasing it just as gently. It's raining outside here in Philadelphia right now, so I have the nice, gentle, soothing sounds of the rain outside my window. But I hope wherever you are, you can also create a gentle space for yourself. Let's begin. It was while staying at Jetavana that the Buddha told this story about the perfection of wisdom. When a devotee exclaimed that the Buddha was very wise, the Buddha replied, "This is not the first time that I have been wise. Long ago, I was also wise and resourceful." Then he told this story of the past. Long, long ago, when Brahmadatta was reigning in Varanasi, the Bodhisattva was born as a monkey and became the leader of a troop of 80,000 monkeys in the Himavat. Not far from the forest where this troop lived was a village, which was sometimes inhabited and sometimes empty. In the middle of the village was a large Tinduka tree with unusually sweet fruit. Whenever there were no people in the village, the monkeys delighted in going there and eating the delicious fruit. Once, when the season for Tinduka fruit arrived, the monkeys knew that the tree in the village would be fully laden with ripe fruit. They sent a scout to see whether or not people were living in the village. When the scout returned, he excitedly reported to the other monkeys, "The tree is indeed heavy with magnificent fruit. But not only is the village full of people, There was also a new bamboo fence around the entire village, and the gates are closely guarded. As soon as they heard that the tree was full of ripe fruit, the monkeys began longing for it. They decided that they would take the risk to satisfy their hunger. They approached the leader and told him of their intention. Is the village empty? He asked them. No, sire, it is full of people. Then you must not go, he replied. Men are dangerous and cannot be trusted. But sire, the monkeys insisted, we will go at midnight when the villagers are all fast asleep. We'll proceed quietly and eat quickly. The leader repeatedly tried to show the monkeys the folly of their plan, but they would not be dissuaded. Finally, he reluctantly agreed, and that night he led the troop down the mountain. When they reached a great rock near the village, they stopped and waited until midnight. At last, they were sure that all the people had gone to bed. Very quietly, they crept toward the village, scaled the fence, climbed the tree, and began eating the fruit. Unfortunately, one man came out of his house to answer nature's call. Seeing monkeys moving in the tree, he raised an alarm and roused the entire village. People immediately poured out of their houses and armed with bows and arrows, spears, knives, sticks, rocks, and even clods of earth. They surrounded the tree. Make sure they don't escape, someone shouted. As soon as dawn comes, we'll have them. The monkeys were terrified. Look at all those fierce men and women, they cried to each other. They all have dangerous weapons. We are doomed. Who can save us from disaster? The only one who can save us is our chief, one monkey exclaimed. In desperation, the monkeys turned to their leader and asked for his advice. Don't be afraid, he answered reassuringly. Then, realizing that the troop needed some crumb of comfort to keep them from despair, he added, human beings have a lot of things on their minds, and they usually find a lot of things to do. It is only a little past midnight, and they say that now that they have us trapped, they will wait till morning. Be patient. Something will come up, and we will find a way to escape. In the meantime, there's a lot of fruit left. Keep eating and don't worry. After a few minutes, he ordered his assistants to take roll call. The assistants quickly made a complete circuit of the tree and returned to announce that one monkey, the leader's nephew, Seneca, was not present. If Seneca is not here, the leader answered, there is nothing to worry about. We can trust him to find a way to help us. As a matter of fact, when the monkeys left the forest just before midnight, Seneca, who had not heard about the raid on the Tinduka Tree, was sound asleep. When he awoke, he was startled to find everything so quiet. He looked around, but could not find anybody. Then he noticed the signs and followed the trail down the mountain toward the village. When he got close, he could see all the villagers gathered around the tree with torches and weapons. This is certainly trouble for our troop, Seneca said to himself. Very quietly, he crept closer to the village to see exactly what was going on. At last, he could see that all his friends were trapped in the tree, and he realized that he had to do something to help them. At the edge of the village, he passed a hut and saw that an old woman was fast asleep inside in front of a blazing fire. Pretending to be a child going to the fields, Seneca crept through the door and seized a burning stick from the fire. Holding the firebrand aloft, he positioned himself windward and set fire to several houses in that quarter. Very quickly, the fire spread throughout the entire village. The old woman awoke and immediately raised an alarm. As soon as the villagers surrounding the tree realized what was happening to their homes, they forgot about the monkeys and raced back to put out the fire. As quickly as they could, the monkeys scampered away, a bit shaken but relieved to be back in the safety of the forest. Each monkey gratefully presented Seneca with the fruit he had brought from the village. Having concluded his story, the Buddha identified the birth. At that time, Mahanama, the Sakyan, was Seneca. My followers were the monkey troop, and I was their leader. There we have it. That was our story of the Tinduka Tree. I want to take it back up to our beginning here of the Tinduka Tree. And let's take a moment now that we arrived at the end of the tale, just to take another deep cleansing breath as we allow ourselves to just sit with everything that we just read, that we just spoke, that we just heard. Let's take a deep, gentle breath and allow that energy to be released gently. Very nice. So, just some things to think about in reflecting on that tale. And I'm sure for you as well, there were some things that jumped out to you, that spoke to you, a couple of things that might have crossed your mind as you were reading about the actions of the monkeys, the actions of the villagers. Um, there were a couple things that immediately jumped out to me in terms, especially in terms of looking at it from a meditative view. We often think about in meditation the monkey mind. We talk about the monkey mind when we're meditating and our thoughts are jumping from one topic to the next, from one idea to the next, from one thought to the next. Sometimes that's referred to as the monkey mind, as you know. And so this time to hear the monkeys up in the tree and to hear the leader of the monkeys, which we found out later was actually an incarnation of the Buddha, to hear him talking about the human mind and reassuring his monkey troop not to worry because those humans, they all reflected the human mind, which would, as he said, eventually start to take notice of something else, and they would start to give precedent to something else. And their most pressing problem would no longer be the monkeys in the tree, it would be something else that was going on in their village. And so he reassured his monkey troop not to worry about the humans because they all suffered from human mind. So that was interesting to me. It kind of popped out at me, and to reflect on that about view, about perception, how we perceive things. The other piece, of course, was looking at how drastic the response was from Sendika, who went and took the burning stick from the sleeping villager, from the old woman, and began to set all the huts, all the village, all the houses in the village on fire. And how for him, that was a legitimate action, he thought, because he was saving his brothers and sisters in the tree. And he felt that by, as I said, by any means necessary was his approach. And so that's also something to walk with, especially in these days that we're walking with, living here in the United States, where there are many who have that perspective that burn it down. It's all or nothing. It's zero, as I say, it's zero sum game, that whatever means are necessary to achieve one's end, no matter how justified one feels in achieving that end, or no matter how noble one believes one's action to be, just to reflect on that kind of response, not passing judgment on that response. I'm just taking the moment in the context of the story to reflect on those extreme actions, the extreme action of the monkey willing to burn down the human's village to save his troop, his monkey family and friends, and also the villagers who were willing to gather underneath that tree to wait it out, to wait until those monkeys eventually came down, and then to do whatever they decided that they were going to do to those monkeys, whether it was to kill the monkeys or whether it was to reclaim their fruit that the monkeys had taken, whatever their end goal was. You had both of these groups of sentient beings in this same space. One trying to obtain food, the others trying to protect the food that the monkeys were trying to obtain, to protect that food for themselves and for their families. So there is no situation here where one can say, oh, they are right. Oh, well, of course there is. You could choose to do that, to say, oh, they are right or they're wrong. Also, though, there is the opportunity to see the story through the eyes of the different characters, to experience all of those realities, to experience it all, to see if you feel a certain karmic connection, if you will, to the actions of the monkeys or to the actions of the villagers, a karmic connection to the tree, which is providing fruit without deciding who it's growing fruit for. It's growing fruit. So all of those are perspectives, I think, from a meditative standpoint, that can help one grow in one's meditation to really experience view and what is, as we would say, what is right view? How does that feel within you? Also to concentrate on all those possibilities, right concentration, meditate on those, right meditation, all of those aspects of an eightfold path to the end of suffering, which would be our goal as meditators, to experience all of that in the context of this one story, the Tinduka Tree, the Tinduka Jataka. And so I hope that it presents for you an opportunity to do all of that kind of reflection. And I thank you so very much for joining together for this moment. And I look forward to reading with you in the future, reading another Jataka tale. Until then, please be safe, be well, be at peace, and I'll see you soon. Thanks.